morning, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of With Conviction, a story of hope, horror, and history. My name is Rain. My pronouns are she, her, and I am your GM for this adventure. With me are my intrigued heroes for this campaign. Why don't you all introduce yourselves?
Hi there, I'm Alice. I use she and they pronouns. I play Desdemona Hartwood, who also uses she and they pronouns. Des is a rose heart guardian magical girl, and she's a sort of like gothy, punky girl with a heart of pink, some new wings, and some background schemes that we didn't touch on last episode. We'll get there.
I'm Skyland, my pronouns are they and them, and I play Chris Whitlock, whose pronouns are she or any. Chris is our very sportsy, magical not a girl, who is our firebrand artillery, and is waiting to see if some ideas might be able to crop up once we are through chatting with the nameless.
And I am Rob. My pronouns are he, him. I play Eliza, whose pronouns are she, her. And Eliza has been entirely distracted by what she was planning to do by some new information she learned.
And that new information that you've learned as you started to delve into the gray once again is that it's inhabited not just by these horrible monsters, but by people whose identities have been almost entirely stripped away. These are soldiers from the Civil War who seem to be trying to hang on, and they're surprised to see you, but have mentioned that you're not the first angels that they've met. So, as Des asks how you all can help, how does this conversation continue?
They asked for a way out of hell, and Eliza is thinking about the sword on her hip, but she's not sure that's the best idea quite yet.
Right. Des goes, we might have a way out of hell, coincidentally. We are angels, after all. But before we get to that, we need your help. Let's say storming the gates of hell.
They kind of look at each other.
How much do you all know about this place and that spire?
Well, I know those damn Rebs, I don't know, made a pact with Satan, probably. And there was just a swarm of those demons. Then everything waves a hand at the gray around you. It was like this. That thing's been building up over time.
I think it's what we've been sent here to break.
How close have you gotten to it?
I mean, no one who's wanted to live has gotten awfully close.
Okay, so we have minimal information on Satan's ass crack.
Pretty much. We know they're dug in around it.
Okay.
Can you take us to the angel of the battlefield?
The one with the flag looks up at the sky, kind of listens for a second. All right, I think they've probably moved on. I think we can move. They stand up, they kick out the fire, and they continue marching, and I assume you all follow along behind them?
Yep.
Does anything happen to them when they cross tiles?
Nope.
Okay.
Seems to be same as you. It's a couple tiles before you see anything. And you hear it first. Fusillades of rifle fire going off. What sound like shouts and drums and gunshots here and there, but as you get closer, it seems to die off. You finally get there and you recognize the field that you're now standing at the edge of. Of course, you recognize the field. You've seen all of these easily a dozen times by now, but moreover, you realize, although it's hard to recognize, this is the same field that you had seen dirt being kicked up in earlier, and that's because you see more dirt being tossed up in the air. And this time you can see it's by shovels digging more trenches. On the other side of those trenches, you can see white pup tents, and you can see men moving to and fro between them. They all appear identical to the ones that you've been traveling with.
How often do the demons attack?
More so over the last day or two, something stirred them up. Probably not going to be here for very long. If they've already found this, then we need to start moving again.
Eliza's dubious about that, but doesn't say anything.
You can see that these tents are laid out in rows. You can make out men, some of whom are bandaged, some of whom are injured, and don't seem to have been treated yet, laying between tents. The ones who are fit are either standing guard with loaded weapons or they are digging trenches.
Eliza's like trying to spot which main tent is clearly the one that the injured are being brought to.
Okay, you can make me a perception check. What is everyone else doing?
Des would be still trying to chat with some of the soldiers. Des is going to ask them how many of them there are, like if there's more of them here in. Well, she wouldn't use the word the gray, but here in the gray.
The one you're talking to thinks and shrugs for a second. I don't know. Company, maybe two?
Eliza is apparently too overawed by everything that's happening because she rolled a 4 to find out where the angel is on her own.
There's no obvious tent that they're being brought to. It seems like the attack has just happened, so it's still in disarray. I think Chris is the first one to notice, actually. As Eliza is looking for a hospital tent, you see, walking through the encampment, a woman. She's clothed in a robe of red, white, and pink, and a white mantle is laid around her shoulders. Brown hair is tied back in a working bun. She kneels by a wounded man, and you see a pair of rings on her hands glow an ethereal blue as she examines his wounds. The light flows from her hands to the bloody bandages and lingers there as he visibly relaxes. She says something to him, stands, and then moves to another man.
Chris runs and taps Eliza on the shoulder, pointing in the direction.
There's like a moment of hesitation, and Eliza takes like one step forward and then stops and looks at Chris.
Chris pushes Eliza forward.
Okay. And with her wings opens as wide as is practical at the moment, she walks towards this woman.
The woman looks up to see who's approaching and then stops as she realizes that it's not another soldier. Quickly goes back, finishes what she's doing, and you can see that blue light lingering on the soldier's wounds. And she stands up and looks to you. Oh, thank Providence.
Hello.
Hello, I'm terribly sorry that we can't offer more hospitality.
This is fine. I'm Eliza.
Matilda, but you can just call me Tilly.
All right, Tilly. How much do you know about what's happening here?
She gestures to the sky. Well, I think we're in hell.
Eliza looks up and then shakes her head at Tilly and says, "If anything, it's closer to limbo."
I don't know what you mean by that, but I'm just here to make these poor souls' lives easier. No one deserves this.
I'm here from outside with a pair of friends, And I think it's our task to end this.
You see a sparkle of hope in her eyes that she doesn't dare let cross the rest of her body. I'll do whatever I can.
Chris? Des?
If Des knows this is happening, she's definitely like standing back a little bit so that Eliza can have this moment. But if Eliza's gesturing for the two of us, then at the very least, Des is going to step forward.
Chris comes up behind Eliza and places a hand between Eliza's shoulder blades, letting her wings unfurl just a little, but not so much as to overshadow. We're here to help, but we need help. We need to deal with the entirety of that. She points towards the spire. And we are just 3 young adults, really.
She gives a smile. I understand. But if the Lord chose you, then I have faith that you can do this, and I will help any way that I can. There's a slight quirk of her lips, and she almost seems to laugh slightly. More quietly, she steps towards you. Would it be safe to guess that they call you angels too?
Eliza nods.
Amusement becomes a little more unguarded.
They call you that too. Not just here, but back in Shiloh?
She seems to contemplate this for a moment. That feels like it was a lifetime away.
More like 2.
Tilly, you said your name was?
She nods.
Chris smiles. I'm Chris.
It's good to meet you.
Chris looks at Desdemona.
Eliza does too.
Des steps up beside the two of you, and she lets one of her wings out a little bit so that Matilda can see. And she goes, "I'm Desdemona. We want everyone here to get out of here safely, but we're gonna need your help to do it."
She nods.
We need a plan. Eliza here, and she claps Eliza on the back, is real good at those, but we need more information. Can you tell us more about this place and how we might get up to that spire safely?
She thinks for a second. Well, the best way to try it to get up, I guess, is flying. Probably.
Can you fly?
She shakes her head and then gestures to your wings.
A couple of us can fly, not all three of us, but the main problem, this is what I was thinking about. The main problem is the enormous force of flying demons or whatever. Uh, we need a way to get those away from the tower, and then we can head up there as a team, fly up there, and we can put a stop to all this.
She thinks for a moment. I don't know how easy that would be. It might just shed more of them to defend itself.
Good. Great. I have an idea for how to lure away a lot of them at once. So when time comes, I'll be ready to do that, and I think it should be safe.
Eliza, do you think we could maybe get the soldiers to help us gather all the cannons and load all of these all at once? We have so many tiles worth. Can we set up, is the word battalion? I don't.
Battery. That's what you're thinking?
Sure. Um. If you take out the bottom, the whole thing should fall, right?
Maybe, but I don't think 6-pounders will really do it.
Chris Blinks.
What? Those were Confederate 6-pounders. Honestly, I don't think 12-pounders would be any better.
I mean, I can replace all the cannonballs if I need to.
Des hefts her shield and goes, not 6-pounders, maybe like, God, I don't know, 200 pounds?
I hesitate to get all these soldiers involved and just get them attacked by those flying skirmishers.
They're gonna get attacked anyway. Why not let them have a chance to fight? Fight for their survival rather than hiding all the time.
I'm personally betting that there used to be a lot more of these soldiers, and that they've lost quite a few already, to say nothing of their identities.
Eliza looks at Tilly for confirmation.
She nods. It's difficult to gather all in one place. We're trying, but she gestures at the wounded soldiers. It's hard to put anything together when we can be attacked almost at any time. And if the rider notices us, then, well,
I think we saw him, a flying creature.
the man astride it, yes.
Okay. Is there anything else you know and can share in brief?
She thinks for a second. I'm not sure. I'm not a soldier. What are you looking for?
We want a way to bring down that tower.
So far, the soldiers haven't been able to say anything about the tower itself, or if there's a way around it, a back door, some sideways way in.
She thinks. I don't know if it's hollow. After that portal opened, it just sort of, well, it built up there over time.
Like a stalagmite.
Oh,
Then it wouldn't be hollow.
no, but it's probably brittle.
Oh, okay.
Is one of the soldiers in charge, or would they listen to you?
She nods and gestures to a closed tent that's large enough for some people to stand in with a table, but it's not a pub tent. It's larger than that, but it's not very large. The general is more well-versed than I am. I'm just here to try and make these people's suffering easier.
Okay, team, do we want to talk to the general, or should we come up with some of our own ideas and bring him, I assume, maybe wrongly, some ideas of our own so that we have something in hand?
I want to do some brainstorming. I feel like we're maybe a quarter of the way to a good plan. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
mind stepping aside for a sec.
Hey, Rain, do you mind dropping out of the chat for a little bit?
Yeah, this is our episode now.
All right. Call me when you need me.
Okay. All right.
I didn't expect that to work.
So I'm going to be real. I don't think we're at the point in the story where we can fully take down the spire yet.
Me neither.
So there's that.
So what do we think we need? Ooh.
Ooh.
Do you think we could... I wonder if this is a cut off the head and the body shall fall thing. If we can take out the rider on his own, do we think the legions of the damned will follow anymore?
I would expect it.
I would also expect it.
Yeah. So we could try to bait the rider out into a trap.
What would bring the rider out?
Seeing us flying, apparently.
Yeah, we are the bait.
We are the bait. Okay, that does make sense.
If we need it specifically, the rider, we do have his sword that he needs. So
Also true. Okay, so we need to figure out how to bait the big monsters. We need a way to close the portal.
Yeah. And also, it would be really good if we could get Shattershot into this episode or the next.
Why did you say that now?
It's okay, Rain's not here.
Rain will be. Oh no, you're wanting to get it in tonight, so
Yes.
so it's okay if she hears this.
Yeah.
So what of those pieces of information do we want to go after for this episode?
I don't think we can get the nature of the portal, so do
Yeah.
we want to try engaging the writer directly?
I think with my flight and powers generally online, I think we can take anyone. So the question is simply getting it to a point where the fight's not going to overwhelm us.
Mm,
Yeah. So, question about Civil War rules of engagement.
mhm.
The rider is clearly their general,
Yes.
basically, right?
Yeah.
Is there something we can invoke that will require the rider to come out and play on his own?
I don't think that would happen in a Civil War context. This is post-Napoleonic Wars. Everybody knows that generals are vulnerable. And this is not Nathan Bedford Forrest, so he's not going to come after us personally. That's the only Civil War general who would do that.
Okay. So no honor duel.
No.
Okay.
But I think we can definitely bait him with his sword. And I think what we can do is we can bait him and a group of the skirmishers to come after us. And we can probably use Shattershot to clear out the skirmishers.
Okay. So we need to pick up another courage then.
Yeah. And I think when we lure the rider to a specific spot, we should have it be a specific spot surrounded by caissons with a bunch of gunpowder in them so that we can open the engagement by detonating that.
Have we found any caissons yet?
We found a couple in the last session,
Yeah.
but we would have to probably have the soldiers send out foraging parties to gather more.
So I had an image come over my brain
All right.
of the three of us. So Alice, you mentioned Desdemona really wanting to be able to rally people. Eliza's really good at dramatic speeches, and Chris is a team captain.
Mm-hmm.
I think the three of us together could genuinely could probably improv a rallying speech about the Winged Warriors of Winchester. Something that's just over the top.
Oh.
I'm thinking either super over the top or something that feels super compassionate to get like team courage.
All right. Yeah. I hope we'll have the opportunity for that, but we might actually want to save that until later in the story when we get them to help us storm the spire, because
Okay.
it seems like we're trying to trap the rider at this point.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but we need them totally on our side as well. So I don't think it's a bad idea. Also, I think what Skyline is getting at is that we can use it to try and get courage.
Oh, yes. So are we doing the thing of trying to kill the rider this episode? Because that seems like the plan.
I think that's the best shot we've got right now.
Okay.
I
It
think-
probably won't work, but it'll progress the story.
Yeah, I think if we can draw the rider out to us without the literally hundreds of enemies, then I think that'll be a good attempt. I think the only thing to worry about is if we can't draw the rider out without getting everybody else, we have to be ready to just bail.
True.
Yeah.
Eliza will hate that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chris
all
won't
right.
like it either.
Okay.
So we need to go talk to the general, and we can ask him about how to bait the rider.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's do it. Hey, Rain, come back.
We've been scheming more.
Uh-huh.
Editing Rain will have a good time with that.
All right. So, as the team's sort of breaking out of a huddle, let's go talk to the general.
We all walk over towards where the general is.
Presumably Tilly can give us an introduction.
Yeah, there's a guard outside the tent, but Tilly is able to, let you through. And considering the hushed murmurs calling you angels that are currently rippling throughout the camp. He looks entirely predisposed to let you in anyway. Inside, it's fairly cramped. Someone has set up a table with what looks like some hastily marked up maps of the area. You can see the large black dot that is the spire some distance away, and you see a man who isn't much better off than the rest of them in terms of identity. About everything you can make of his appearance is that he has a mustache and a pretty severe widow's peak going on. Tilly looks from you to him and, General, these are Eliza, Chris, and Des, and they are here to help. They're like me. He kind of looks up and is like, I can tell. And it's hard to read an expression as his the mist is not clouding his face as much as it is some others, but it's still definitely there. And he looks at you. So, ladies, you don't exactly look like you're doctors.
We're not all ladies either. We're more warriors. And we're here to help.
He nods and, well, that's more than welcome.
Eliza?
Can you tell us about the writer?
Absolute beast of a man. He thinks for a moment. If you don't have to fight him, don't. We know that he's in charge of those things and that he can give them orders from essentially anywhere. It's hard to get much more than that, simply because most of the people who meet him don't survive.
We've dealt with creatures from beyond this world before.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Maybe someone can finally give him a hiding.
We're going to need some of your soldiers' help. We're not going to ask them to fight him, but we need things prepared ahead of time. Especially, we need as much powder as you can get us.
He thinks for a moment. We don't have that many people left. Can you find us some more?
Do you know where there might be more?
Well, anyone who's still alive is moving around as quietly as they can, so it's hard to keep track. We think there's still some survivors out there, but you'd have to get to them before those demons do.
Like I said, we're not asking you to fight them for us. We don't think that would work in the first place, but more just, we've seen caissons around with charges of powder. That's what we really need.
Yeah, and he's telling us that he doesn't have the people for it.
Oh, right.
What if we were able to send us with your teams to collect the caissons? There's 3 of us. We could send 3 teams, and they'd be escorted by someone with a lot more firepower.
He seems to chew that over. I think that could work. What are you planning, a mine?
Close enough.
He kind of looks suspiciously at you.
Have you heard of a Colonel Henry Pleasance?
Can't say I have.
Not to worry. But yes, a mine. We're going to. Well, you'll see.
I can't make plans on you'll see.
All right, we're going to lure the rider onto the mine, detonate it with him standing on it, and I don't think that'll kill him, but it'll give us the chance to.
I like your thinking. We can make this happen.
Alright, GM, what rolls are we making?
I don't think this is going to be a roll.
Why does that sentence make me more nervous?
So, you all are escorting teams. Who wants to go first?
I think Eliza can go first.
Okay. How are you going about your errand of collecting powder?
I figure we just each pick directions. One will go directly away from the spire, and the other two like branch off at angles so that we're not getting closer to the enemy. But we're just checking tiles and collecting Kaisant. Since we're with these soldiers, we're probably going on foot,
It would be difficult for them to follow.
and easier to stay covert this way anyway.
Indeed. So, how are you leading your team?
Eliza is definitely out in front. She's that sort of leader. I think she's just going for confidence, keep her shoulders straight, and hope that they'll follow along with her.
Yeah, they definitely seem very nervous about. You said you're going in a straight line?
Yeah, just not direct. Like basically, just pick a direction, head through tiles at that.
Yeah, they seem. Every time that you're not under tree cover, they seem nervous and they keep glancing at the sky. Can you roll me something like charm or something socially oriented to try and keep their morale going?
Well, how about Silver Tongue? Since I just picked that up and it's my only social skill.
Okay, since that's about talking, what do you tell them?
I think she's actually going for this ordeal is almost over. We are going to gather that powder. We're going to kill the rider. And when we do, this should end. All I need is your help to make it happen.
Go ahead and roll.
Well, that's a 12 natively, so 13.
When you say kill the rider, they kind of stiffen up and they visibly are paying attention to you, and from there on they're following much closer.
Alright.
So when you get to the first set of caissons, it's about 2 tiles away, so it's a good hike, and you're able to find maybe 2 bags of good powder.
It's not very much, so
Not much, no. These are meant for cannons. You're gonna need a little bit more. What are you doing? How do you handle that?
Eliza's like picturing the map of the tiles in her head, and they can cover twice as many tiles if they just shift to the side a bit and come back at a different angle. So I think she just lures them to the right, or not lures, leads the soldiers over to their right and checks that tile, and then they'll come back and pick up as more as they go.
Okay. Yeah, you're able to get a couple more caissons. Are you just loading these up in rucksacks or?
I'm picturing that we've like grabbed one of the caissons that's in fairly good condition, and we're loading the powder into it, so we don't have to carry it.
That makes sense. So, yeah, I'd say you're making progress towards filling it, but you've still got plenty of space.
All right. We're also grabbing any charges of canister that we come across.
Ah, yes. Okay, that fills a little bit more space in the caisson, and you're moving a little bit slower now.
Okay. Yeah, you know me. I love canister.
Who knows? It might help. What do you do when a patrol flies overhead?
How many of these creatures are there?
Looks like there's about 4 of them.
Eliza is going to try to get the soldiers and the caisson under cover of woods.
Okay. What do you think a good skill for that would be?
Yeah, none of my skills apply for this one.
Reading patterns doesn't?
Do you think it applies, Rain, finding patterns?
If the patrols are flying and if they're patrolling, there would be a pattern.
Yeah.
I will give it to you if you would agree that she has been, throughout this whole process, keeping an eye on the sky, paying attention to where they're going, and thus able to predict where they're going to show up next and when they're going to get close. Do you think that makes sense?
Yeah, that sounds like an Eliza thing. It's basically the same as she did with that drone way back.
Okay. Go ahead and roll with that.
Okay, you're gonna think I'm bullshitting, but that's 11, so another 13.
I still believe you. You are able to. The caisson is slow with all the canister and powder in it, but you are able to get it under cover long before any of these things shows up. And as we see you hiding beneath the trees, watching these things pass, Des, how are you leading your group?
I think she is overall trying to be pretty cautious. Anytime there's any sort of hint that there's like a patrol coming by, I think she immediately is getting her whole group to like get down, get as much in cover as possible. Her main goal is to find stuff, but also not get anyone injured.
That makes sense. You do want to bring these men back alive. Why don't you make me roll with Endure to see how long it takes you to get to the first set of caissons?
Okay. That is 8 plus 1. That is a 9 total.
Okay. Despite going so slowly, you are still making progress. You're getting to the first set of caissons about the same time that Eliza is watching that patrol go overhead. And unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be more than a couple of bags of powder and no shot in these caissons. At least very little usable. How are you carrying these? Are you carrying them in rucksacks? Are you carrying them under your arms? Are you bringing a caisson with you?
Okay, I think her first instinct is to pop her shield out, flip it over, and pop the caissons in the into the shield itself.
Oh.
The bags of powder or the
Bags
entire
of powder.
caisson?
The bags
Okay.
of powder. Sorry.
I think that's a very clever way to.
Yeah, I think Des also likes this because then it's like, okay, if something goes wrong, it's her problem, not the people around her. Okay, yeah, I think that's what she does. I don't think it's terribly difficult for her to carry these in her shield.
Okay. I think that's really clever. So if you didn't have a point of courage, you can go ahead and take one.
Thank you.
So I assume you go ahead and continue searching.
Yeah. You know what? It's working well right now. So,
All right.
yeah.
So you are continuing to search and you're keeping an eye on the sky. You're being very cautious. So when I ask you to roll as a patrol comes overhead and you need to find a place to hide, I think you're decisive with this because you've been going out of your way to be cautious.
Okay. So that is what a +1 to my roll.
Correct.
Okay. But otherwise, a flat roll because I don't think any of my other
I'm not
abilities.
aware of any of your skills that apply.
That is a 2 on the dice. Snake eyes,
Ooh.
baby.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So
We're all connected via phone still, right?
no, nobody has refreshed that connection.
And we would have to have the sword with each of us to keep opening portals as we enter new tiles.
That's true.
Correct. These things descend on you. What are you doing?
Only thing I can do. I set the powder down and I fling my shield at them.
Reminder that fleeing is an option.
True. I'm gonna. Can I flee effectively if I've got the powder?
You don't have very much, so I would say you probably can, yeah.
Okay.
And if you're successful in fleeing, then the soldiers will be able to follow you, no problem.
Okay. And fleeing, is that just a roll?
2d6 plus an appropriate skill.
Okay, cool. Then, yeah, I did actually forget that flying or that fleeing was an option. Then yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do. I think Des stretches her wings out to try and like cover the other people, and we're gonna try to book it out of there. I don't suppose with if I'm like trying to barrel forward with my shield out in front of me, I don't suppose we can add shield check to this. Otherwise, I don't know what.
I'm gonna say if you deliberately try to tackle through them to knock them aside and stun them long enough to run, you can use shield check.
Okay, I like that. With the corollary being if I screw up, I'm gonna take some hits.
Indeed.
Okay, cool. I like that. That is an 8 plus 1. That is 9.
Very nice. Yeah, you stun them for just long enough for you all to start running. The soldiers get off some shots, but you're the last one out of there as you're covering their retreat. These things start to recover and they shoot at you, and as that is a partial success, they're going to get a chance to make a parting shot as you escape, but you will escape.
Sounds good.
And that is a 7, so you take 2 stress.
2 stress.
Chris,
Yes.
how are you going about this?
Chris has pulled her squad into a huddle, and she has laid out the plan for them. They are going to go and see what they can find, and they're going to stick to the tree lines as much as possible. They're going to zigzag through any open areas that they need to. She will be keeping a careful eye on not just the skies, but the surroundings as well. She doesn't need as much time to pick up detail as other people. And so she's not just looking for the powder and the caissons, but also any other people that they might be able to pick up along the way. If they're lucky, they're lucky. If they aren't, that they aren't, and that's fine. The plan for if there's any of the monsters that come is to hide if need be. And she says, if worst comes to worst, you run, and I'll take care of them.
All right. What are your skills? I'm trying to decide what's appropriate here.
We have inspect, we have place, we have sprint, charm. I'm also wondering if this would work for Chris's light shift trigger of leading the way into a stressful situation.
Oh, it absolutely would.
So for your mark, Rain, she's now at 2 light.
Okay.
So I'm not sure that place is the best choice here. Because
Inspect is the closest one that I can think of.
that's where I was going to.
Yeah. So go ahead and roll inspect for me as you are keeping a lookout for your team.
So I rolled a 5, plus 1 is 6.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to pump flare into it to bring that to an 8.
Okay. And remind me what flare does?
I may add the current conviction to the results. But that's to roll to fight or protect. Does this count as a protect roll?
I don't think it does. This is a normal skill check. It is not the protect action, but also on top of that, you are not actively like trying to take shots for someone. You are just looking out.
Okay, that's fine. So that's 5 on the dice plus 1 is 6. We're having a good time today.
I'm sorry.
You don't control the dice.
Not that you know of.
As we're going along here, I think Chris's head is on a swivel, and her gay audacity has made it such that they can't quite track as much as she thinks she ought to be able to.
That makes sense. Are you aware of struggling with trying to track everything or not?
I think it takes maybe a tile, and then she realizes, oh shit, I'm not actually able to track everything.
That makes sense. You are, however, able to spot the first caisson. And it has a decent amount of powder in it. It's got several bags of powder and some shot if you want to take that, solid shot as well as grape. But how do you want to go about moving that?
Does everyone have a knife?
They all nod.
Okay. Put what you can in the rucksacks. If we are getting attacked and you're getting shot at and you think you're going to explode, cut the rucksack off your back before running.
They agree and start getting to work. And as you finish speaking, that is when you hear the crash of a tree above you and something slams into the ground behind you.
Shit. Chris whirls to see what it is.
A pair of forelegs and a very toothy horse maw. Horses don't usually have maws per se, especially of the toothy variety, but here we are, and it is right in front of you.
Chris spares a glance behind. Are things packed up and ready to move?
They are halfway through packing things up, and they are frozen and looking in your direction. And you hear a voice. Well, now there's a new face. You must be that intruder that was causing problems. And I think that is a good place for us to end this episode. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening, and thank you to my players. I hope to see you all next time, and have a good night.
Hi everyone, this is Rob here with a little bonus historical note. Midway through the episode, Eliza mentions Colonel Henry Pleasance. Pleasance was a mine engineer who commanded the 48th Pennsylvania Regiment. Near the end of the war, during the siege of Petersburg, he and a large group of miners under his command dug a mine shaft, which ran under Confederate lines and detonated 8,000 pounds of gunpowder, blowing a massive hole in their defenses. This led to the Battle of the Crater. Unfortunately, the specially trained black soldiers who had been chosen for the assault on the crater were replaced at the last minute with white soldiers who lacked that special training. Union troops were unable to capitalize on the crater's blast, the Confederates held their position, and the siege of Petersburg continued for 8 long months of trench warfare. I learned about Henry Pleasance from his appearance in Harry Turtledove's alternate history novel, The Guns of the South. If you're enjoying this delve into Civil War history, I really recommend it. It's a great read.
Thank you again for joining us on this adventure. With Conviction is a production of Silver Maiden Games. If you would like to play Conviction, check out the game at silvermaidengames.itch.io. Music for the intro and outro of this podcast is A Soul with Conviction by Doom Vega, who you can find on Bandcamp. Music within the episodes is by Rachel Rose Mitchell, who you can find on Bandcamp and Spotify. All rights to the music are retained by their original artist. Production and editing are done by myself and the With Conviction cast. Thank you all. This would not be what it is without you. You can find this podcast on Spotify and YouTube or silvermaidengames.wordpress.com. You can also find more about the game, podcast, and ways to contact us at silvermaidengames.wordpress.com.